Chapter 30, Liu Yu's piercing on tea. 10 minutes later, Su Wan Ci hung up the phone, browsed through the compiled materials, and quickly chose a topic to publish a journal paper on. During her years abroad, although she had published numerous papers and journals, all the proceeds from those had been invested in the laboratory. Neither she nor Zi Yanming could come up with 10 billion instantly. Both of them were obsessed with medical research and had poured all their money into it. They never considered saving money as they rarely needed large sums. Fu Jing Zhou's 10 billion breach of contract penalty was indeed quite a problem. After finalizing the research topic, Su Wan Ci closed her laptop and headed to the kitchen to make dinner. Just as she stepped out, she bumped into Liu Yu, who was coming out of the study. Su Wan Ci was taken aback and looked at Liu Yu. "When did you get back?" All of Liu Yu's emotions had been concealed. He walked towards Su Wan Ci with his usual demeanor, pulled her into his arms as usual, and lightly kissed her forehead. "I've been back for a while. I had to handle some urgent documents in the study." Saying this, he lowered his head to look at Su Wan Ci and asked, "Are you hungry, babe?" "I'm okay. But it's almost 7. I was going to cook in the kitchen. No need." Liu Yu held her hand and intertwined their fingers. "I'll cook. You can keep me company." Liu Yu was a person who was adept at controlling his emotions. Even if he didn't want anyone to sense his feelings, even when someone sat across from him, they wouldn't be able to discern his emotional fluctuations. And that's how Su Wan Ci was today. From cooking to eating, she didn't sense anything unusual in Liu Yu's demeanor, except for the fact that he relentlessly tangled with her in bed until after 1 in the morning, leaving her unconscious afterward. In the aftermath, Su Wan Ci passed out again. Liu Yu carried her to the bathroom for washing, but she showed no signs of waking up. After tidying up the messy bed, Liu Yu opened the bedside cabinet, pulled out a silver needle from it, and pierced holes in all the small umbrellas he found inside. The silver needles were very thin and almost invisible when stuck into the packaging of the small umbrellas. Even if Su Wan Ci examined the umbrellas under the light, she wouldn't notice the pinholes. To ensure effectiveness, Liu Yu had intentionally made dozens of holes in each umbrella. He almost wished he could turn them into hornets' nests with the holes. After returning from Hualien Hospital, due to some discrepancies in the branch company's work, Fu Jing Zhou and his assistant, Xing Heng, left Shangqing on the same day. Su Ru, who had been waiting for Fu Jing Zhou for several days, heard that he had returned and stormed into Fu's group headquarters with a stern expression. Clutching the ring, Xing Heng was organizing the meeting materials needed for the upcoming conference when he heard a loud bang as the door was forcefully pushed open from the outside. He quickly turned around to look. When he saw Su Ruhei's face, he noticed that her expression was unfriendly. Realizing the situation, he hurriedly organized the materials on his desk and then left the room with efficient movements. He even considerately closed the door behind him. Seeing Su Ru burst in rudely, Fu Jing Zhou's brow involuntarily creased. "What's the matter?" His voice was calm. Holding a cup of black coffee, he walked over to the desk and sat down, gazing at Su Ru. He asked, "What's the matter?" After stewing in frustration for several days, the resentment she had been bottling up because of the ring issue had gradually diminished due to her longing for Fu Jing Zhou. But now, seeing his indifferent expression, that suppressed frustration suddenly ignited like a firework, exploding within her chest. She slammed the ring onto the desk. "Fu Jing Zhou, didn't you say you were just toying with her? Then why did you propose to her?" That day after returning to the Su residence, Su Ru took off the ring and immediately began searching for any letters inside the ring. Sure enough, there were some. It was the initials of Su Wan Ci's name, followed by 3 English letters, FJZ, Fu Jing Zhou, SWC and FJZ. Su Ru found it ironic in retrospect. Fu Jing Zhou had repeatedly professed to hate Su Wan Ci, but in the 8 years, he had done everything to protect and pamper her. And last year, he even proposed with a ring engraved with both of their names. Su Ru had liked Fu Jing Zhou for a long time, but Fu Jing Zhou's heart and eyes were solely on Su Wan Ci. It wasn't until one day when he told her that he truly liked Su Ruhe and not Su Wan Ci. This had somewhat relieved Su Ruhe's envy and jealousy. Later, she finally saw Fu Jing Zhou break things off with Su Wan Ci. She even got engaged to Fu Jing Zhou. Su Ruhe initially thought that Su Wan Ci would no longer stand between her and Fu Jing Zhou in the future. However, now a ring had emerged, complicating things once again. At this moment, Su Ruhe's heart was filled with immense jealousy and resentment. She was so preoccupied with her emotions that she failed to notice the change in Fu Jing Zhou's expression when he saw the ring. Only when he held the ring in his hand and used the coldest and most ominous tone to say, "Where did you get this ring?" did she finally sense something was wrong. Su Ruhe clenched her fists, her gaze shifting to a small drawer under the desk. "I found it in there a few days ago when you were away on business." Thinking that this ring was the engagement ring Fu Jing Zhou had given her, she answered him with a self-pitying look. Listening to her explanation, Fu Jing Zhou immediately pulled open the small drawer. The exquisitely packaged velvet box was empty, closing his hand around the ring. The sharp edges of the diamond pricked his palm, causing pain. "Jing Zhou, aren't you supposed to explain this to me? Why did you propose to her?" Su Ruhe looked at him with a gaze that tried to elicit sympathy, holding back the tears that welled up in her eyes. For a while, Fu Jing Zhou suppressed his surging emotions. He abruptly closed the drawer. The sound of it shutting made the teardrops in Su Ruhe's eyes tremble. "Su Ruhe, who do you think you are? Do I need to report my actions to you?" Fu Jing Zhou had never spoken to her so harshly before. In this instant, Su Ruhe's mind felt a little fuzzy. Jing Zhou, what did you say?" Fu Jing Zhou stood up, his eyes narrowing into a glare that was fixed onto Su Ruhe, the disgust in his gaze undisguised. "Su Ruhe, you better understand this clearly. Just because I announced our engagement doesn't mean you become the mistress of the Fu family." Su Ruhe's complexion instantly turned pale. Fu Jing Zhou's voice continued, "Su Ruhe, remember this well. I chose you only because you're the cousin that she cares about the most. I chose you because I knew that her feelings for you would make her hurt even more. Picking you gives me a better chance at getting back at her.